Have you ever felt it? That kind of low-grade modern anxiety? That feeling of being powerless even though we're surrounded by more stuff and technology than ever before? Well, today we're going to dig into two totally different explanations for that feeling. One says the sickness is all in your head. The other says it's in the machine we've built all around us.
All right, so let's start with the first diagnosis. This one comes from a movement called New Thought, and its big idea is that our problems, everything from our health to our bank account, don't actually come from the outside world. Nope, they're a direct reflection of our inner world, our beliefs, our fears, our whole consciousness. Basically, the sickness is coming from inside the house. And now for a complete 180. This other philosophy says, look, your inner state doesn't really matter when you're caught in a system that's just too big to fight. It argues the real reason we feel powerless isn't because of our thoughts. It's because these massive, faceless organizations control everything that matters in our lives. This time, the problem is definitely not you, it's everything out there. So, how in the world do we square these two clashing ideas? Well, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the one thing they actually agree on, this sickness of modernity. Then, we'll explore each of the proposed cures, the one from within and the one from without. And you might be surprised, we're even going to find some common ground before we land on the huge question this whole debate leaves us with.
You know, it's kind of wild, but as different as these two philosophies are, they both start from the exact same place. They both look at the modern world and say, yep, something is deeply wrong here. They agree that on some level, we are suffering from a serious lack of meaning and a loss of control over our own lives. So, the critique of our high-tech world points to this giant paradox. We have access to more comfort and stuff than kings and emperors ever dreamed of, but it leaves us feeling hollow. The idea here is that we've made a terrible trade. We've given up something priceless, our own autonomy, our freedom, for a mountain of consumer goods that we get tired of almost immediately. Now, the New Thought perspective sees that exact same suffering, but diagnoses a completely different cause. They'd say it has nothing to do with the stuff you own. The real problem is those internal states, the jealousy, the constant worry, that nervous energy that just eats into our substance. The issue isn't the world we live in, it's the toxic emotions we let live inside of us. And this really gets us to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? What's the real source of all this modern discontent? Is it a software problem, something wrong with our thinking, or is it a hardware problem? Something fundamentally broken in the society we've constructed. All right, let's really dive into that first cure, the one that says the power to fix everything is already inside you. This philosophy claims that you don't need to change the world because reality itself is basically a product of your mind. So where did this idea even come from? Well, it actually grew out of this American mental healing movement way back in the 19th century. The core belief, the absolute bedrock of it all, is that the spiritual world, the world of our thoughts and consciousness, is way more real and way more powerful than the physical world we see and touch. And this brings us to a really fascinating concept they have, the mental theory of disease. This theory says that basically everything you experience on the outside is just a projection of your mind. Your body isn't just a machine of flesh and bone. Get this, it's a composite photograph of your previous thinking. So in this view, being sick isn't a physical problem. It's just a picture of having the wrong thoughts.
So, okay, how do you actually do this? Well, they lay out a pretty clear path. Step one, and it's a big one, is to realize the problem isn't physical, it's mental. From there, you have to actively pivot your mind away from chaos and toward peace. Step 3 is to affirm that you're connected to this perfect divine source. And finally, you realize that abundance and well-being are your natural birthright. The message is pretty clear. Change your thinking, and your entire world will follow.
At the end of the day, this whole philosophy is about radical personal responsibility. It's saying you never have to be a victim of your circumstances. If you want to succeed, you have to first believe in success. You have to embody that consciousness. The world, as they see it, will literally have no choice but to rearrange itself to match your new state of mind. Okay, now I want you to hit the reset button. Forget everything about changing your thoughts. This next cure argues that your thoughts are basically useless against the massive technological cage we've all built for ourselves. Now, to really get this critique, you have to understand one central concept. They call the power process. The idea is simple. As human beings, we are hardwired with this deep psychological need to have a goal, to put in real effort, and to achieve that goal. It's not even about the specific goal. It's about the struggle, the striving, and that feeling of accomplishment. And right there, that's the problem. Modern society, with all its technology, has completely hijacked the power process. We don't pursue goals that actually matter for our survival anymore, right? We don't hunt, we don't build our own shelter. The system takes care of all that. And what do we give in return? Our obedience. We trade our autonomy for a salary, and it leaves this giant psychological hole inside us. You know, a classic Twilight Zone episode just nails this idea perfectly. This guy, a criminal, dies and wakes up in a casino where he literally cannot lose. He's got all the money, all the women, everything he ever wanted. At first, it's paradise, but pretty soon the total lack of challenge, the complete absence of that power process, drives him absolutely insane. He begs to be sent to the other place. And the casino boss just smiles and asks, "What on earth made you think you were in heaven?" All right, so we've got these two philosophies that seem like total polar opposites. One says change your mind, the other says tear down the world. I mean, they couldn't be more different, right? Well, maybe not. If you look a little closer, you'll find they actually agree on the most fundamental problem. I mean, check this out. The common ground here is actually kind of shocking. New Thought says the soul should create the circumstance, which implies that right now, it isn't. The anti-tech view says we are flat out powerless against our circumstances. You see the connection? Both want to make the individual the master of himself, and both are calling for a radical, revolutionary change to get back the autonomy we've lost. So when you strip it all away, here's what they both agree on. They both diagnose a deep loss of individual power. They both see us as being controlled by outside forces, whether those forces are our own negative thoughts or the external system. And they both reject the way things are now as a kind of sickness and say the only way out is through a massive, transformative change to reclaim our freedom. And this all leads us to the final, critical choice these two worldviews put in front of us. Where do we fight this battle? Do we fight it inside our own heads or out in the world? The two paths forward are laid out pretty clearly here. For New Thought, the problem is internal. It's a consciousness of fear and limitation. So the solution is mental and spiritual. Purify your thoughts. For the anti-tech critique, the problem is external. It's the system itself. So the solution is physical and social. Reject that system. One path leads inward toward a spiritual revolution. The other leads outward toward a social one. And that leaves us right here with this one last question. Is true freedom found by mastering our inner world so that the flaws of the outer world can't touch us? Or is a healthy mind even possible until we first take back our power and autonomy in the physical world we all have to share? Where is the real battle for freedom? Is it in the mind or in the machine?